Hey. All right.
Howdy.
Hey. Hello, everyone. We're
Hello.
here. Hey, welcome. Welcome, folks. Oh, yeah, we've got people in the chat. The sound effects guy. We were just talking about you off screen. All good things. Yeah, so welcome to the chat. And we've got a new person here, which is awesome. It's always fun. I don't know. I don't know how to.
Oh,
start
when he's
this
got a
thing.
3D printer. Love 3D printers.
Oh, is
I
that
do.
what that is?
Cleaned up my office today, so it's like
Nice.
slightly more aesthetic. Guitars, 3D printer.
My desk is a mess. I've been going through some modules.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. That is the correct response.
I've been going through bonsai. I bought 2 bonsai, one for me, one for my dad, and I randomly attributed one to myself and one to dad, and guess which one's dead. So that worked out great. Now I'm deep in the weeds of learning how bonsai work, and that'll help me in audio, right?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what will help you? Maybe it'll be like like this deep lesson in editing, in like sound editing, right? It's like don't go too far, don't over process.
That does make sense. I recently did a model boat and felt like, yeah, I could probably do a whole YouTube video about like how making a model boat for 240 hours made me a better sound designer.
I would bookmark that video.
I feel like there's a Karate Kid sound design crossover movie in here.
Yeah.
That's true. It's right there.
I mean, we do occasionally break ice to record it.
I just got off an airplane a couple hours ago. I was flying back from LA today.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What were you doing in LA, if you can say?
I gave a talk on Monday at UC Santa Barbara about procedural music and jazz and supercollider and AI. Then hung out with you guys know Patrick Hart?
Yeah.
Remember
Yep.
him?
Patrick Hart's on the show.
He's a friend of the pod.
Pod.
Anyway, so I hung out with him. He lives in LA, and then I did another podcast yesterday with this guy named Sam Fishman, who does Music Hack, this audio, plugin company. And it's pretty cool. He does like compressors.
Sounds really familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
That's great.
Nice. So Santa Barbara is your alma mater, right? That's where you.
Yeah, I was a student there a while ago now.
Are they proud of you?
2009, 2010. Yeah, I'm giving a bunch of talks there. I did one last year, this year, a couple years ago before that. Phil Pop and I went out there once. So it was fun. It was really cool.
Didn't you also do that concert with Patrick that we?
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, we did our crazy.
Yeah,
the one that we
metahuman
recapitulated on the live stream last summer.
Yeah, that was fun. That was wild.
That was cool.
I did that in person down there.
So yeah, here let's welcome Alex. Hey, Alex.
Welcome, Alex.
What's up?
Hi.
Tell us about yourself. What's the deal? What's the deal with Alex?
What's the deal?
I'm a professional eater.
Nice.
Ironically,
Sure,
type 1
going
diabetic
great.
as well.
Yeah, how much do you charge for eating?
Yeah, let's see. I'm a technical sound designer. I worked for Team Audio before that. I was doing a bunch of like indie and mobile game work. Yeah, I'm in Unreal like every day of my life. Enjoy it. It's fun. I'm very passionate about acoustics. I have 2 weenie dogs. Yeah.
What are their names?
Pablo and Cheaty.
Oh, that's good.
Yep, they're both long hair. One of them is a Chiweenie, and then one of them's just like a full-blooded Dachshund. So he's like, Cheaty is a Chihuahua weenie, so he's really sweet.
I like that Chihuahua weenie is so many syllables. That's great.
Yeah.
So, you're East Coast. You're in the Georgia area, right?
Yes,
Or am
I
remember
live
that
in.
correctly?
Yeah, I live in Savannah.
Okay. So yeah. So what is the good food? What's the good food there?
You know, I've spent most of my life in the Southeast, and being down here, there's always barbecue and stuff all over the place. But weirdly, in Savannah, there's not a lot of barbecue. There's a massive amount of seafood because it's a coastal city, so that's really nice. But that was kind of a weird thing moving to Savannah. Is like I'm used to having barbecue joints all over the place, and I got down here and it's like they evaporated. Oh, I saw love for the work on Guild Wars 2. Thank you.
Yeah, Guild Wars 2 is great. I used to play that game a lot.
I love the team. I worked with them for a little bit over 2 years, and they have a phenomenal audio team.
Did you know that I worked on Guild Wars 2, Alex?
I think I knew that. When was that? Did you work with like Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was there.
Aaron, you were there when James was
yeah, James Ecker was the director. Yeah. I was there for 2 years. Right after Guild Wars 2 shipped. My job was to fix all of the game-breaking audio bugs for like a year.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I can tell you all about them. That's a whole fun topic. You join a company like a month after their game launches, and it was just a wild ride of like one disaster after another live under a game on an audio engine that I did not write.
Well, you were their first audio programmer, right?
No, not ArenaNet. No. They had an audio. They had like a guy, but not only did they have an audio programmer before me, they had one that wrote the book, and so it was weird. I came in, I read this. His name's Jim Bohr. He wrote a link to it. Jim Bohr, said James Bohr audio programming. Let's see this book here, game audio programming. Yeah, and it has like a picture of Einstein on the front.
The most famous audio programmer.
Yeah.
Big guy.
Einstein's playing a violin. You're like, oh, makes sense. Yeah. So he wrote this book, and I was really excited. I was like, oh man, like, because I read that book, and I was like, I'm gonna learn a lot. I did learn a lot, but those are some wild times.
Where did you post the link?
I didn't post it anywhere.
Oh,
I don't know how to share links. Can I share it?
You if you want, you can post it in the Discord, and then I'll put it on the description for the.
There we go. That's what I found when I Google searched here for it. Internet Archive.
Okay.
I don't even know. Oh, it's like the whole book.
Yeah, working at Guild Wars was that was an interesting period because up to that point I had done a lot of indie projects in Unreal, I think like one in Unity, some mobile games. One of them, they were kind of doing their own proprietary thing. And then I had got hired on to Team Audio, and I was working on a game called Wild Card, which I think was 4.27. That was like when I first got hired on. And then I got put on to Guild Wars, and I'd never worked on like a big AAA level proprietary game before. So that was kind of a thrown to the fire, hope this works out. And luckily, I kind of quickly realized like all engines are kind of the same, and what you got to do is kind of the same. It's just the way you go about it is different.
That one's not the same.
That is a challenging engine.
I'm talking about the audio engine. The engine itself is a whole other thing too. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But the audio engine, because you're a technical sound designer, that means you got into it.
Yeah.
What was your opinion? No one else knows, but I'm more than happy to tell people how the ArenaNet audio engine made by.
Just don't break any.
Yeah.
Yeah. No NDAs.
I'm going to tread lightly. Treading lightly. It was good.
What do you think of the scripting language?
That was a big space between it was and good.
There's a lot of reverb in that tail there.
The scripting language was a little challenging because there wasn't a tremendous amount of internal documentation
There was
or
zero.
anything. So it was mainly just looking at other scripts, and then
Speaking it.
there was a couple people on the team that had made a lot of them before, so kind of just relying on them to be like,
Was
"Hey,
Cody there? Was Cody there when you were there? Cody.
no, there was a guy I got pretty close with. His name was Colin Vandervoort. He was another technical sound designer, and I think he was there a little bit before me. So I worked with him a lot. Todd Davies, I worked with him. Davies,
There's a
Davies,
lot
I'm
of
not sure
people
how to say his last name. And then Drew, of course. Drew was great. I actually still do a little bit of music work with Drew. The Evergreen Philharmonic. It's like a high school philharmonic in Seattle, I think. Every year they record, and then I'll do the editorial on that.
Cool.
So I'll give it. Can I give a little? There's no NDA or anything. It's just kind of funny anecdote. When I started, Jim had worked on the audio, and it's a totally proprietary internal audio engine tech, unlike any that has ever existed before. The high level way to describe it is that it's like a Russian nesting doll of audio engines layered on top of each other. It's a really interesting idea, but different. And I started first day. I was like, "Does anybody here know?" Because there's no documentation. It's internal tech. It's not like Unreal Engine, right? I was like, "Who here on the engine team knows how this audio engine works?" And everyone. I was like in the first stand up. It was like 8 engine programmers, and they all say nobody knows how your audio engine works. I'm like, "What about code reviews? You guys do code reviews?" Nah. So you're telling me the last 7 years of development, a guy has been working on this thing without doing any code reviews with anybody? Yep.
I like the sound of this place. That sounds great.
And I was like, I guess I'll figure it out. And then they're like, well, we'll have Jim come out and in a couple months he'll come out for a day and you can ask him some questions if you have any. So that's how I started doing on it. It was quite, like I said, I learned a lot. It was a challenge.
Yeah, it was. It was always like interesting because it's such a like fast development cycle with them too, because they're coming up with releases left and right. So the amount of time you have to, I guess, like push the envelope further in a certain area is very limited because you're just trying to get that content in, because they do like the quarterly releases and then other ad hoc things here and there, and but it was fun. I mean, the whole team, I loved them. They were my first like really big client I'd ever worked with, and they really took me in. And like I said, it was my first proprietary engine, so it was like very much thrown into the fire. But luckily, I survived it and didn't burn.
I think it's kind of a good way
Did you work on an expansion? Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I can't remember all of them. It's on my LinkedIn.
You work on Heart of Thorns?
No, I think that had come out right before I got there. I started not with End of Dragons, but the second release, I think, What Lies Beneath, and then What Lies Within. And then after that, we had went to the new Secrets of the Obscure, which I helped that launch, and then the 3 releases that were a part of Secrets of the Obscure, and then the big Janther Wilds, I worked on that, and that was around the time I had transitioned off and started working with Riot.
Cool. Did you ever meet my wife? My wife worked at Arena for a long time. Sarah Sperry. Did you ever work with her? Just curious.
I'm not sure. What department was she in?
She was a designer.
I don't think so.
Just curious. Sorry, too many Guild Wars 2 questions. That's what made it just.
No, it's super cool. I had no idea. Guild Wars 2 is a great game, and it's cool to have something that just kind of keeps on keeping on. Like it took over a lot of the area of your WoW sort of clientele, and went and developed it into a really deep, rich game. I think it's a great game. It's such a cool origin story of entry into AAA. I feel like is working on something that you love that ends up being really fun and working with a great team. Like, not, sometimes in this industry it feels like people don't always have that experience with AAA. They have this thing where they get super burnt and they want to work on something, and then they were like crushed by producers, and everything. And so it's cool to come out of it with a team that you love, going like, wow, how cool was that? What a great experience. I learned all this thing. Like, yeah, internal engines are always really tough, but I feel like it's also a great way to show you that not everything in game audio needs to be just handed to you and packaged in a really nice, neat, documented thing. And if you can make the path a little bit easier by leaving some documentation, sure, but it's definitely always feels like you could give me,
it's like campsite rules.
Yeah, it's like you give me any part of Unreal and you'd be like, there's heaps of documentation. I'm like, oh, what about for this thing? Like, oh yeah, there's none for that. I'm like, bummer. So close.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate since I joined Team Audio, because I'm 4 years in there, and I don't think there's been a client I've worked with that's not just been fantastic. There's been a couple where they didn't have an audio team, and we kind of were the entire audio team, and then like Guild Wars and Riot, they already have such huge teams. We're just kind of added flavor. But yeah, little spice. Yeah, I got to work. There's a game called Defect that's coming out, and I worked on that for like 2 months. They needed some like really quick tech help, and they're building that in UE5, and it looks amazing. They got Mick Gordon on it.
That's cool.
None of that's NDA. It's all very on their socials. Yeah, they're a cool team. They're small, but they're making a really cool game.
I did a gig for Mick once. I worked for Mick a long time ago.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, he's one of ours. So
that's right. He belongs to you.
He belongs to us. So
that's super cool. Mixed with Sweet Justice?
No. He's Australian. He's even better.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
No, I mean he's been in a mainstay in audio for years and years and years now. I mean, I still when I used to make a lot of contact instruments, the big thing was the Mick Gordon effect, where you sort of chopped up your samples and sequenced them and quantized them so that they were exactly the same and didn't have round robins, because like that's what he did with the chainsaws in Doom, and that's just what sounded sick. And it's like, you think, oh yeah, but there's so many cooler techniques now. It's like, no, that one's pretty sick. It still works great. That's cool that he's doing another score, because I know that the last thing I heard from Mick Gordon was the whole Doom fiasco. So it's cool to hear new stuff. A Defect, is that what the game? Do you know what studio that is?
It's Empty Vessel. It's their debut game. I want to say they announced who their publisher was. I know they finished that last year. But yeah, it's the first game they're making. It's very gritty. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it sounds really cool.
I guess you couldn't call like a gritty game like perfect.
Yeah, well, that's it. An empty vessel makes a broken thing, and that sounds pretty good.
It's pretty evident in the trailer, but one of the cool things is they're really like using all the heavy hitting tech and Unreal, and like one of those things is what is it, Chaos for Destruction, and they've got some, I mean, I guess it's their technical artists or someone working on that, but the destruction in that game is really impressive.
That's awesome.
That's cool. Did you work on sonifying the destruction at all?
A little bit. They were they basically needed a lot of things designed and implemented, so it was like a 2-month contract that we came on and just helped them out. It was supposed to be me and another tech sound designer, and then like 3 designers. Ended up becoming 5 designers and just me. So I ended up making no sounds for it. I was just constantly trying to get everything in for everyone. There wasn't enough time for us, for like the designers to really like get into the engine that much. So we kind of got into this like very fast loop of like, I go in, do an audit of like what the thing is, what it needs and how it needs to be made, and just give them rough parameters, and then they would design for it. And it was just this rinse and repeat for like 2 months. I think it was for their Gamescom announcement. They were going to have a demo, and the game was very quiet at the time. I want to say within like the 2 months, we probably designed and implemented like, because we did like all the guns, all the abilities, grenades, movement, some ambience. It was a lot. It was a couple hundred sounds.
Yeah.
And I love that iteration, like that loop when you get into when you can really trust the designers and the designers can really trust you in tech, and you sort of, here's the thing I need, here's all the bits, yeah, let me know if you want any other bits, and then they go away and they're like, oh, can I get this one more bit? And you're like, yes, and then it just, yeah, you just kind of cruise on in. We have a similar cadence on a project at the moment where we, you know, go in, there's something very experimental, you build it out, you sort of hand it over, and then 2 months later, the designers can kind of get around to actually working on it, which is crazy that you go through that sort of condensed period of actually moving on through different systems and getting it sped up. Sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what audio engine they're using on Defect?
Unreal.
The native audio engine?
Yeah, so we were using Metasounds, all of the built-in Unreal tech. I actually pitched them a Swedish Tech tool. What was it? I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was like the...
So many of them. Who can keep track?
Yeah, I want to say it was the HDR.
Yeah, HDR is the one that I think almost every project that's using native Unreal could at least look at. Like that's, I mean, obviously
that's one thing that
it changes the way the whole audio engine kind of behaves, and it feels really good just to get something that feels a bit responsive. And it's it's a really cool system. Obviously, we got different ones.
The whole audio engine behaves, man.
I mean, it changes how a lot of the audio engine, like it changes the gain structure, I suppose, in terms of a designer using it. It doesn't change how the engine works, but
that's one area when Swedish Tech was, because we contracted with Swedish Tech a lot and friends with all of them, and I was like, we're so far from doing anything in HDR, and so I was like, that's an open field, so don't worry about competing with us on that. And I'm a little skeptical about HDR in general. And a couple months ago, I don't know, when was that, Dan? We were out there a while ago. We saw it, and there was it blew my mind. I was like, okay, this is the best HDR audio thing I've ever seen. It's like the best.
I think the big thing is the spectral HDR. I think that's where it takes it from being cool to being, you know, really useful, because you end up and you sort of move more towards the automatically mixing how it feels kind of thing with the spectral side of it, as opposed to regular HDR, which I think you can get really good results out of regular HDR, but there's generally like a lot more reliance on the designers being better with gain staging and headroom and elements of like frequency content. Like you get a lot of low frequency bins that end up pushing up HDR and stuff like that.
The biggest issue with this is a side tangent on HDR, but because I wrote an HDR system for Call of Duty a long time ago, trying to copy the old Battlefield HDR system. The biggest problem with HDR is loudness perception is frequency dependent, right? And so if you're just tagging a sound by SPL and then you're reducing the volume, should probably sit above my title card so you could look at my face. You're reducing the volume universally without taking into account loudness perception as a function of frequency, then it's really hard to predict what the actual outcome is going to be, and you're going to have really challenging ducking problems. This is the whole idea of a multi-band compressor and all this stuff, is that like, you know, you got to like be able to control it. You have to think in terms of spectrum because it's a nonlinear problem. And so theirs is the first one I've seen that actually tries to do something analogous to HDR lighting, because lighting is the same sort of thing. And you have like light curves and things that you can control the like brightness as a function of color spectra. And I think doing the same thing with audio makes a lot of sense, and they really nailed it. It sounds like reality. And HDR is such a pain in the butt, in my opinion, to deal with as a sound, content. It's really it complicates mixing because it's a level of indirection. It's this like automated thing. It can be really confusing what's happening because now you're like thinking about, loudness, tagging, and all this stuff. It's really complicated. It's like, is it worth the extra pain and suffering in your implementation pipeline? And versus like what you get, like what's the ROI? And I've always been kind of skeptical about HDR. I'm like, it's cool, but is it really worth the pain and suffering? And you hear the result, you're like, okay, it might be worth the pain and suffering.
No, I think you're totally right. I mean, the trickiest thing using something like HDR inside Unreal, because there's an established way to modify loudnesses in Unreal, and it's like, do you modify them in a metasound in the details panel, in a metasound in the metasound graph? Do you do it on the sound class? Do you do it on the like? There's a lot of different places, and probably the biggest hurdle when it comes to like understanding your gain structure is, can I express the volumes somewhere so that I can understand like, hey, this footstep's too loud, or this, I need to turn it down. Where do I turn it down? And that becomes really tricky, which is, it's kind of why we spent so much time designing things like the hierarchy views and debuggers and bits and pieces that show you graphs of where volumes are, because even us using it on the daily, on different projects, sometimes you're like, oh, on this one we want to handle it here, and on this one we want to handle it here. Why? Because I made a bus plugin thing that does this other thing somewhere else. So HDR, I mean, even our experience using, when I was on Outer Worlds 2 and we did HDR in Wwise, the problem was really just trying to understand, like, okay, we had to have like a big sit down. We're like, okay, can you walk me through how to use this thing? I know exactly how to use it, but on every project, the project hierarchy is a little bit different, and Wwise is, notorious, I think, for everybody believing that they do understand how to do it or how it's supposed to be done, which is fine. Like that's games, audio in general. But you always sit down and people are like, oh, this is how it works. And you're like, I've never seen this before. And I've worked on like 20 Wwise games and I don't agree. And they're just like, what do you mean? There's no other way to do it. I'm like, there's plenty of other ways to do it. So HDR is one of those ones where I think no matter what engine, unless you did something like Battlefield where you just built it in and you were like, there's no other way to do it. It's hard coded into the chain and there's no way around it. Very, very tricky to explain.
So my problem with HDR is that it's a mixed paradigm that is predicated on the idea that the loudest sound is the most significant sound. And I don't think that is always going to be the case. I think that it works in certain contexts, but I think that it fails to create a meaningful presentation in other contexts. Or you have sound designers like gaming the SPL tagging on their sounds or something like that to sort of, and then it sort of the whole the idea sort of starts to fall out of the out the window.
So I actually completely agree with you, Dan. The system that I made for Call of Duty, because it's a very cinematic game. Like, they're not trying to be super realistic, right? And so HDR system would have to support cinematic moments,
right,
in a way that a sound designer can go into a scene and suddenly act like they're scoring or mixing a movie, and then go back to the sort of simulated, environment. And so for Advanced Warfare, the HDR system I had written was compatible with the cinematic mixing thing I had made, which was sort of the spiritual ancestor of some of the stuff we were doing with the modulation plugin for Unreal. But the idea was that you go in. It was the Modern Warfare 3 one was very simple. It was like just volume, and you'd have all these sort of scripting controls to like set entire groups of sound, with a common parameter. It's it's analogous to a global RTPC thing, and it was really simple. And the sound designer could go in and say, it had all these things that we never ended up adding to audio modulation. By the way, it was on our roadmap forever. But the idea of being semantics like mute all other than this one, or set these three and then set everything else to this, sort of like nice semantics, so you could future proof your scripting control, and you could add more parametric controls, and old scenes wouldn't suddenly break, because there was kind of like mini DSL for thinking about mixing, which we wanted to add for audio modulation. We just never did. But that system worked and was completely compatible with this sort of automated HDR thing. So at any point, and also my HDR thing had a knob, which I think is really cool. I don't know if SpeechText does this, but there's how much HDR do you want? So it was a continuous slider. So you'd have no HDR, and then it would be then the system would kind of fade in, and it would do all the SPL auto ducking. And so you could go into full manual mode and HDR, and then everything would also kind of work alongside it. They multiplied together, And so you could go into your Saving Private Ryan, beach scene. Because if you go and watch that beach scene, it's it feels super realistic, but if you go back and watch it, and it's like a war. FYI, in Call of Duty, there's the war movies. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're we got to make a game that's like this scene, and you watch it 7 billion times, and you're like, how do I make a video game that automates the beach scene and save? One of my favorite moments, side note, by the way, was one of the top bigwigs at Sledgehammer was that music isn't great. We want to have the music be like the music that's on the beach scene and Saving Private Ryan. You're like, what? Okay, yeah, let me go to my room. Okay, it's done. What do you mean it's done? There's no music in that scene. It's all it's all just it's this really cinematic thing, and you hear one whiz by it, and it's him breathing. It's this weird scene. But how do you do that with automated systems around you, and then suddenly go into this kind of weird cinematic focus mode, without re-implementing all of your game audio, So, anyways, I agree with you, Dan.
I think one of the things that I feel we struggled with audio modulation, I don't feel was very well resolved. I don't know if everyone, maybe I'm just really old. Some maybe older people in the chat or people who are viewing later on remembers when Gmail added tagging to emails. That was a revelation. It was because you had this sort of flat level of metadata that you could just assign to any email. And so this email doesn't have to be stored in the particular folder or whatever. It could be, business and fun. Yeah. It's there. And so I think it's challenging because mixing systemically comes from this console paradigm where everything is a render flow, and the gain structure is inline that signal flow. We want to think of, and say the same way in our DAWs. DAWs simulate that same environment, even though they don't have to. And we have this mental model of mixing as this sort of summing graph, or river tributaries, or however you want to sort of metaphorize it. But and so we have this idea of gain structures also having to serve like a tree that has branches down to a trunk. And so I feel like it's struggle for a lot of folks to reframe their idea of gain management as it's just metadata. It's just flat metadata. And you don't have to it can be, this and this and this, and you can just create a special one just for this one thing. And it doesn't have to be connected to anything else.
I agree with it. That was the big idea with audio modulation. It's no, you can have a thing on 3 control buses. Yeah. And it's totally okay. Mm-hmm.
And we kept getting requests where it's can you make this control bus manage other control buses? And it's no, you're not getting this.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things people's mental models are hard to change.
Yeah.
But especially because the mental model that you're trying to change is so established and so easy to understand, because at the end of the day, people will be yeah, but it comes out as a stereo file. And you're Yes, but that's yeah. I mean,
It's
that's
sort
the
of
hardest.
easy to understand. I mean, it's not like look at a like big 88 channel console or something like that. It's flat. It's basically you've got some submixing, but usually it's a couple layers deep. Whereas like the kind of submixing and that goes on in games is bonkers, right? Like it's many layers deep, and at some point people just it's like they can't keep track of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the big concern is that it's hard to actually show the complexity. Like the closest thing I've seen was there's I think it's called Voice Inspector in Wwise, where it shows you sort of how the actor mixer hierarchy kind of flows through into what buses it's connected to and whatnot. And like the concept is super useful. Like we do want stuff like that. The problem with it is the more you're trying to do two different things. You're trying to, one, have a way to author assets so that they can inherit attenuation settings and mix settings and effects and buses and whatnot. And then the other side of it, also be able to mix them independently. Like we're trying to do two different things at the same time that are not really made to coexist. One part of it is I want to make all the authoring of everything really fast, but then I also want perfectly fine-grained control of every sound. So it's such a tricky... yeah, it's I don't know. There's somewhere the workflow has to break down, right? Because you're trying to do two different versions of the thing. You can either have it and say, well, music mixing's easy, just step up to the 88 channel console, or you could say, well, here's the one slider that has all the strings on it, and it's like, oh, well, that's cool too, and it's like, yeah, but now you can't change the volume of that specific violin, so it's. I don't know. I feel like we're definitely seeing some really good improvements in how to manage that problem. Like HDR is one way to manage it because you can do either nested or separate hierarchies or whatever. And the same thing, I know that there's voice inspector models popping up all over the place. Like Fmod has a pretty good one as well, where you can kind of track with the voice profiler for how this specific voice is changing, and an audio inspector has a lot of new workflows for being able to track that as well. So the problem is really how do you identify when you're looking at the big connection graph of how everything is connected? How do you identify that there is a fault? That was definitely something that I've found when you step into really, really big games where you have all the information in front of you, but now I don't really know how to find a fault besides just listening out for one and then using the tools to sort of track through it, which maybe that's the only way, really.
I feel like there's a couple things that are difficult to articulate in this scenario that you're describing, because you just described a bunch of debuggers, right? Like these are all things to sort of help you determine what the signal flow is after you've already said it, right? Like that's already it's. So I think part of the problem is like in a long-term development cycle, you see these complex systems emerge over time, right? And if there was any challenge, the challenge therein was that people could not have foreseen the system in advance, right? And built something holistically sensible in anticipation of all of those things. And so then the solution is to just be like, well, we can help you figure out why it's so complicated.
Yeah.
But I feel like
everyone always wants to start with simple, and they're always like, yeah, but look how simple my voice thing is. It's going to be so good because it's so simple. And I'm like, yeah, it's so simple until you have a complex idea, and then it'll all be broken. They're like, yeah, but we won't have a good idea. Like, yeah, you will. You'll have heaps of them.
Yeah, this is, there's one thing that the demo, the sample projects don't really express very well, which was a big, huge pain point in Fortnite, and they tried to describe this as part of the UE5 paradigm, was game feature plugins, having everything and thinking about everything in modularity. And what I think you see a lot of projects start out like, oh, we're just going to do it in this one place and we're going to keep it, as Sir said, to keep it simple. And then, 2 years later, suddenly you're like, well, we need to support, modular DLC and limited time modes and all this sort of stuff that now has to somehow be incorporated into the big, huge, centralized mess that you've got. I think that, there is something about that, some complexity as a result of a bunch of simple things sort of being combined. And maybe that's sort of the only way to handle it in the long term.
But that's the thing with modularity, right? It's like we're talking about mental models. The
it's
model of modularity is another thing. Like I was recently, I made an interaction component, and I tried to have it that like interactions sort of similar to how the gas system works, but a few less layers of complexity. So just being able to say like, hey, you can use an object, or you can hit an object, throw an object, open an object, close an object,
right.
And even just trying to explain that like, well, no, you don't turn on the computer, you activate the computer. And it's like, well, hang on, couldn't I just have a tag for turn on? You're like, yeah, but it's really about what you're doing to the, and it makes a lot of sense that there is a mental complexity to thinking in terms of a level of abstraction of, how am I manipulating an object? There is an object that is being manipulated and the manipulation that I'm doing to it. And even just trying to explain how that is different to just having a big nested hierarchy of all of the sounds for every object underneath it and playing the sound is really tricky. So when you try and incorporate the game feature plugins of the interaction of the level, it's like you start getting to this point where you're like, I'm not really sure how I determine whether or not I've made the thing, because do I work out, does the plugin exist already?
I mean, some of that's just policy, right? Like verbiage should be a policy that is established, right?
Of course. But I mean, in smaller teams, like the problem becomes like there's that constant problem of like, how much architecture do you build for a small team? You could build absolutely miles and miles of it and tons of structure that's really good. That means nothing ever fails, but it will take a long time to get in. Or you can go the cowboy mode of getting everything in and having it break all the time, which might be fine if you're a smaller team that has a smaller game. And nowadays, I think we make bigger and bigger and bigger games with more and more features that you need more architecture, but then it feels crazy sometimes when I'm sitting there telling like one other designer that like, yeah, you've got to go through all these permissive statements to get to the point of putting your footstep sound in. And they're just like, there's two of us, dude. Why is this so hard? I'm like, because it's going to help you, but I've got a document in my head of how much time this is going to save us, not how much time it saves us right now, but how much it's going to save us in the future. And whenever you get into predictive future time saving, it's a harder sell for production, because it's like, well, if we do it this way, it'll take a little bit longer now, but it will mean that it won't break in the future. But it's like the statistic of how many people didn't get hit by cars this year is not as good as the statistic of people that did.
Well, it's not even always about breaking. Like sometimes it's just about trying to anticipate growth or something like that, right? For example, you could slap together a music implementation pretty fast, but then you want to create a music system that holistically handles unknown music designs. That's going to take a lot more time, right? And then it becomes like, well, what's the scope, reasonably speaking, and what are your ambitions here?
And if anyone's ever scoped out a music system, it's always about 3 times bigger than the biggest version of the concept that you thought. It's like, I just want the interactive music hierarchy. And you're like, well, hang on now. Hang on a sec.
I made the mistake of doing the opposite on Lego Fortnite, on Lego Odyssey. I made a music system that was exactly what they asked for. And then they kept asking for more stuff. And then I had to do a refactor. Like it was like right before ship.
It just means they're enjoying the tech sound you did. I mean, I hate it too, because I do these big systems, and I'm like, oh man, this is so good. And then they're like, could it do this too? And I'm like, oh no, I thought I already. Oh.
I also get frustrated sometimes, where I'm like, I'm the audio person who's looking at this request and thinking, well, this would also be good for these other domains, but they're not asking for it now. Like, for example, in Lyra, the context effects system, I was like, this would also be good for VFX. and I was like, I imagine it'd be good for other domains too. And I put together a whole Slack channel to try to solve this problem. And I invited a bunch of other people who were head of other parts of the system, and they didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah. Fine.
The only person that could get on my side was the VFX artist.
That's so tricky, right? It's like when I feel like high level thinking is drawn into monolith sort of structures, where it's like, yeah, this does everything in the whole kit and caboodle, and that's really good. Except, you're sort of, that's when you get into like building a game engine within a game engine sort of thing, where you're like, well, here's all the tools that we use, and they only work this specific way, but they do a lot of things, but you start getting further and further away from reusable tools when you build more and more layers of, well, this one is plugged into everything in the whole game. And you're like, yeah, well, now we need to, when we repot the plant, we have to sort of plug everything into everything again, which is pretty hard.
Well, I mean, the more generic you make it, the less interesting things it can handle, right? The fewer unique things it can sort of, which is the problem with middleware.
Well, speaking of generic, no.
We had like a plan. We sort of got sidetracked on like mixing and engine design and stuff like that. Where are we? What time is it?
Yeah, I was wondering, because I wanted to show my project.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have time.
So, well, David, you've got something you wanted to show also, right?
Yes. Yeah, I got something as well. Mine is, it will take an amount of time. It can probably be talked about very quickly, but I think it'll probably spin off into more conversations. So we can start with someone else's idea and then go to mine when we're running out of time.
So mine is short because it's a wrap up of what we did last time when it was just, I think it was just me and Eric. And so I think I could do that pretty fast because we were pretty close actually, and then we just cut it out and then thought we'd pick it up. So I think I can do that pretty quick.
Aaron's idea first.
Mine is contemplating whether or not jazz is a solved problem.
That's gonna take a while.
That's
or it's just a yes or no question.
Yeah, is the answer maybe?
So I was going to show my UCSB talk that I gave on Monday and kind of walk through it. It's like super collider patches and some interesting experiments with agentic coding, but in a different way than anybody else is using it. I think it's kind of interesting. I can go through it quickly.
All right. Yeah. Let's do that.
Are you sure? You wanted to do your thing?
No. I mean, I'll show my thing. We'll do your thing, and then we'll do my thing, and we'll do David's thing.
All right.
Because David's is n amount of time, which could be 2 minutes.
I mean, I'm gonna say that mine's not a zero amount of time. So
I mean, the thing with mine is that it's a separate standalone app. We'll play a few examples, and then it's a lot of maths and graphs. That are really cool, and I'd want to show it because I think Alex would be really into it because there's lots and lots and lots of acoustics, physics modeling of reverb tails is basically the log line.
Well, that all sounds cool. Alex, did you have anything? I forgot.
No.
Okay.
Cool. I'm just the cheerleader tonight.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So. Let me get this. Let me share my screen. Remind me how to do this on this tool.
Well, there he goes.
No, that's not it.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah. Okay. You want to share it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to? Yeah. Is this good?
So, yep. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
All right. So this was my slide deck. It's an HTML web page. Cool. Should be working. Let me. I'm 100% sure if I'm sharing my audio. Let me go to my test slide here. You guys hear this?
Nope.
Nope.
All right. Let me stop sharing and try this again. See, it's
Okay. Just remember, you can't.
what? What did I do wrong?
No. It's just that because the Stream software is a web app, if you share your system, so you'll have to do it as like I'm sharing my window or something like that. Can you try that?
Share system audio. Yeah.
No, just try sharing the window. You said it's HTML file, right? So you can share your browser. I think you can share the browser. Let me get this out of here.
I did click also share tab audio. Let me just do the whole screen. All right. So you guys see this right here?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're hearing ourselves. That's what I'm trying to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So just share your tab audio. Try that. Just that tab.
That's what this is, but I don't think the audio is coming through.
Play it?
I'm playing it. You can't hear it?
No.
Well, maybe this is not going to work then.
Anyways,
it's a really cool presentation. I wasn't going to do the whole thing.
Well, hold on. If you set your EV-Mux to come out your headphones instead of your speakers, then you can share your system audio without the feedback.
I'd have to get my head.
This is what I was showing Alex before the stream started.
Well, it's taking too long. Let's just do your thing. I don't have.
Okay, we'll do my thing, and you can get set up, and
right.
then yeah. All right. Okay, so for people who are just tuning in, last week we made a footstep system. I guess it depends on the shape of your feet. Footstep system using chooser tables and sort of custom anim notifies. I think what I can do is just show it working and then show the setup, and I think that'll be enough. And then you can use the previous stream as context for like the setup, basically. So this is the payoff. So, yeah. So here I have. What was that? Someone say something? Okay.
Nope.
Now we'll try and see if my audio works. So we see the little guy. So we hear footsteps.
Yep.
Okay. So it's a pretty basic setup here. We've got different materials set up. We got dirt. We got grass. We got mud. And this stone. And then I can go and select other footwear, sort of leather boots. And hear different footsteps. And then I can go here. We've got these little armored boots. And there you go. That's the whole demo. How did he do it? Okay. So yeah. So the first thing, I don't know, what is the first thing? So I guess maybe a good place to start would be just sort of walking through the signal flow. So on these materials, each of these materials has a physical material reference. So if I go to the material, here's the stone, and we'll just do the grass, I guess. Sort of get the idea here. If we scroll down in the sort of base properties for the material, you'll see a physical material reference. And yeah, here, this is PM grass. And this is a physics asset, which describes physics characteristics of a material. And part of that under physical properties is the surface type, which is an enum that we can populate as part of our project settings. If we go to our project settings, put this over here, just do this. I don't remember exactly where it is. It's under engine surface physics, something like that. So here, yeah, engine physics, physical surface. And then here is basically where you can populate surface types. Now, if we go to our animation, I think, where did I? Is it in unarmed jog? I think this is fine. We can just open this blueprint. So if we go to, I believe it's I think it was jog forward. Oops. Was it this one? It was. Oh, that's M. I think it's MM. Or maybe that's the only one. Hold on, I have to find my. I think I've got the wrong skeleton. So it's. I think it's the. There.
Is it in a game feature plugin?
Well, it's this. Here it is. I just grabbed the wrong. Here we go. This is the blueprint.
And if you put this in a game feature plugin, I'd be very upset. You don't need to do that.
No. This is like a bunch of fab content. But I think it's was it?
That's pretty much what I look like with my shirt off.
Nice. I think it
Pretty
was,
much. When will he get there, though? That's what I want to know. Sometimes I just ask myself that. You're just watching an animation, and you're like, man, I feel bad for this guy. And he's just going. It's probably how he got so fit.
I was going to say, you run that much, eventually you become Quadzilla.
Yeah, exactly. You just become all muscle and bone. I bet there's another animation of him just working the bag, just really hitting the gym.
Right. Anyway, so here is the custom notify, and I kept mine really simple, but you could add it with go add it. And I called it anim notify wearable footstep. And so it's just a blueprint that I extended. Here we go. Anim notify wearable footstep. And it has a single input value, which is right foot or not. Oops, where did my... yeah, so here you can see this is the notify for connection on the right foot. The sort of contact position for the right foot. Come on, grab. There we go. There. And then the contact position for the left foot. And I just sort of indicated, hey, this is the right foot. Hey, this is the left foot. And the inference here is that it's which bone is it coming from? But if you wanted to make this more generic, you could just put F name and just have a specific bone or socket that you reference. And basically the idea here is I want to, I'm basically going to spawn the sound at the specific foot. And I'm also going to use that foot as the trace location because I want to detect the surface type. So in other words, what I'm doing here is I've wrapped the surface detection into my anim notify. And so here because the anim notify is going to give you the static mesh or a skeletal mesh component, and it's going to give you the animation, and so you can have both those. The skeletal mesh component, its owner is the actor that is running this animation, right? So I can get the owner, which is the actor. In this case, is our pawn, but it could also be an NPC, right? Or just something else running an animation. This is a little bit of a mess. I guess I should have cleaned this up before the stream. And I'm doing a trace, a very short trace, just a half a meter trace from the specific bone. In this case, either one of the feet, and then I am just starting there at the foot and going negative 50 units in the Z direction. So I'm just tracing down basically. And I've added the actor as one of the actors to ignore in the trace just in case. And I can add this draw debug and we'll be able to see that. We can do that a little later. If I succeed in hitting something, right? If the hit returns true, I grab the location and the physical material from the hit surface, and then I get the surface type off of that. And what I do is I actually go through the process here where if I do the hit, then I cast my owning actor to the specific pawn type, and I feed that in to my chooser table. So here's the chooser table. And the chooser table and the chooser table will basically determine what sound file should play, and I will actually do a play at location, at the hit location, at the hit marker location, and then I'll return. Basically, I return if I hit something. I return true. This notify has basically succeeded. And so if we take a look at my chooser table, which is what we've been waiting for this whole time. Now, there are different ways you can do this. As a reminder, chooser table is basically a robust lookup table that allows you to intake and bind to a bunch of parameters, including object references, and also also other chooser tables, I guess. So we'll take a look. So how you organize it is kind of up to you. Maybe the way that I organized it might not be the best for your project. So I want you to sort of keep an open mind here. But what I decided to do was nested chooser tables. So I basically built chooser tables inside of my chooser table. But you could have handled this entirely on one layer of chooser tables. The reason I did this was because I wanted to do a fallback on the material. So in this case, I do an evaluation of my wearable. So I pass in on the, I pass in the reference to the character. If we look at the character, this is my pawn. My pawn has a gameplay tag called boots tag. And when I change the boots, when I interact with one of these trigger boxes, the trigger box communicates to the pawn what wearable boots, what boots tag to send over. And so what happens is in my chooser table, remember on my anim, I pass in a reference to that pawn. And so on my chooser table, I can do a gameplay tag query off of the boots tag. And so in other words, I've got information about from the notify and like the surface type, and I have information from the pawn, and I could take the information in aggregate into this chooser table and then set up a bunch of conditions for which outcome to select. In this case, I wanted the boots tag to always return one of these things. I could have created a sort of fallback outcome if like the boots tag queries failed. But in this case, I actually just do the 3 boot types. The Sentinel is the armored boot. The Thief is the leather boot, and the Peasant is like the basic boot. And so if I go into the nested table, we can see I also have, now at this stage, I'm doing a physical surface, and I have a fallback here at the bottom, which is just pick stone if it fails all the other the checks here. And so, like I said, I could have done this in one layer and just had 12 times 5, or 3 times 5 is just a big, bunch of rows there. But I just sort of nested them just to keep it simple for me. A little organized.
I'm sure you sort of covered this in the actual chooser talk, but just worth mentioning for people that hadn't seen it is chooser tables are a way of sort of doing your blueprint choices for which sound should play. So there's probably people looking at this going like, oh, but I would just do a big switch case in Blueprint. You can. It's totally up to you. It depends on whether you do. It's the same expression, but it just means you don't have to do the blueprinting.
Well, here's the thing. So yes, you could do that, and I don't think you should.
I don't think you should either, but that's what I mean. When people
and the reason is because when you do a switch, you're basically putting the logic in line with the definition for the logic is in line with the rest of the logic. In other words, if you make that kind of evaluation in multiple places, then you got to have to create some sort of function that you, like a function library or something like that you set up, some sort of global function that you can call back to, or some object that you can instantiate to make those kinds of evaluations. And the chooser table is basically that object.
Yeah, exactly.
And the chooser table is a little bit more, it's a little bit easier to comprehend when you have many selections, right? To choose from, because blueprints are really great until you've got a lot of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so...
we make fun of blueprints from hell, but probably some of those were necessary, and that's sort of a terrible thing. And so, yeah, so that's part of it. And for me, using the nested was a little bit of a visual choice. I did like being able to sort of reduce the visual noise of my selection. But it's also like a central space to add to that logic, right? Like if it's like, oh, we added a surface type.
Yeah.
So that's anyway. The other thing that's cool about chooser tables is it's doing the evaluation for you. Like before chooser tables, you might have like a data table and then set up all these definitions and thresholds, but then you'd have to create some sort of system to do a lookup and do the evaluation and all that sort of stuff.
The other cool thing is if you decided, I want to do it so that different movement speeds plays different footstep sounds.
Yes.
There actually isn't anything you would really need to add except taking in the float value of the movement speed as another table and be like, hey, I want to play this one, but only if they stop when they were moving quickly on dirt, and otherwise I don't want to play a scuff sound. I think that's the big benefit is the architecture feels like, oh, why is it, there's so many layers, why would I go into them? But then you realize I could do it that if they're crouching, I can play a different sound, or if they're running, I can play a different sound, or if they are in God mode, I can play a different sound, and it's really just passing a new value in.
Yes.
I think a simpler way to say is data driven, which means that your gameplay integration and hookups with all your gameplay tags and all the complicated stuff around how to gather the constraints, so this thing is sort of like randomly, or like select a row and then have some random variations based off of gameplay constraints. Those are two nicely separated concerns. One of them is set up the constraints integrated with the game, and that's a whole task. And then once you get that set up, then you have this sort of data table that then you can quickly iterate on.
Yes.
Without ever going back and touching or even remembering how the hell it works.
Exactly.
You compartmentalize the sound design part of it. It's not that dissimilar to the way everybody else has done it in different ways. I mean, this is a common thing, right?
Yeah.
Wwise has their way of getting a game event and then cascading through its insanity to like pick variations and stuff. This is just a different way to do it. It's nice and consistent, and it's cross-platform, cross-domain. So you're going to be using it the same way as animation people and anybody else that does this. And it's a nice separation of concerns. One person can make sure the hookups are there. Another person can be, fiddling with the tables. It's nice. You can also give the tables to maybe somebody who's not super technical and just be like, okay, here's the lanes to be in.
Yeah.
Add these roads, remove these roads. Here's your selector. Go have fun. Don't leave this nice contained spot, and then just make it sound good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It is really easy to edit. The only downside of a chooser table, kind of like a state tree component, is if we look, we have this sort of auto-generated function call, which means that our chooser table itself cannot be dynamically injected into our blueprints. So that's the only sort of downside to chooser tables, is this sort of static functionality here. But like I said, you could have a chooser table output a chooser table. so you could do the work inside the chooser table itself. But that is a constraint, and that the reasoning makes sense to me because the input data is basically generated by the chooser table selection. So if we go through the process of adding our chooser table, you can see it. It auto generates the blueprint function signature. But that is a constraint with using chooser tables. Cool. So I think that shows the whole thing. I don't remember. I think we did everything else in the last session. So
I can try to share my audio again, but I have a feeling it's not going to work. We can Dan, you and I just get together and debug why my audio is not sharing.
Yeah,
we do it another time.
We could just do it.
Or I can give you my alien jazz album that I made using the techniques, and then you could just play it, and I could talk about it. Play it for like
because it's an HTML file. Yeah, sure.
No. So that the whole Super Collider demo thing requires because you can't run Super Collider in a browser. So I came up with this whole insane way to make it seem like it's running in a browser, and it's like going to Node.js and all that. That's part of the presentation, was some insane rig here. But what I can do is share you my album that I posted on Bandcamp using similar techniques. You can briefly play it and go, what the hell is this? And then I can just talk to what I was doing. I think that in 5 minutes I can just describe the process as like light version. Does that seem reasonable, Dan?
Sorry, you have Bandcamp links for this?
Yes. Let me give you, and then because your audio works.
Oh yeah, I could do.
You can load it up, share the audio, and then I'll just talk to what the hell it is, and then we can, if next week I can do a whole deep dive into the process. But
yeah, you and I.
I think it's kind of an interesting thing.
You and I should jump on a call some other time, and we could sort of get your whole setup fixed up. So.
Yeah. But so I sent in the Discord that we have here the jazz. It's kind of a joke. It's called, the band is called the Many Limbed Orchestra.
If you want to jump on next week and do the whole thing, do you want to do that in one block, or do you want to do it today and next week?
Yeah. Do you want to just do it next week? Do your thing next week. We'll do a fix. We'll jump on in between and we'll fix up your audio.
Yeah.
Are you good for next week? I know sometimes you can't join us, so
I should be able to do it next week.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Yeah, Then
Yeah,
we can spend more time on it.
All right, that's fine. I get you, Davey. You want to do your thing? It's fine.
No, I'm just trying to understand how you want to do it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to listen to it and go, "What the hell is this?" And then just just.
Is
talk
it
about the
procedural?
process. It's It's very weirdly procedural.
So I feel
I'll do a
like
teaser. It'll be a teaser. Think of it as a teaser for next week.
Do you,
So
you want me to
just
put
play
the
a taste of it?
How about I put the link to the Bandcamp
Sure.
in the chat video or in the video description,
Yeah.
and then anyone can go and get a teaser, because I think it's cooler if you can share the procedural outcome rather than just the Bandcamp. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is the procedural outcome, but what do you mean? I mean,
Well,
you
you're
make
gonna
the
play.
script.
You're gonna play the code, right?
Yeah. So the idea was. Anyways.
So when you play it, it's gonna be different than what's on the album.
So it's a whole thing. It's hard to explain. But fine. The album is static. It's a.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So if I were to generate the WAV file, it would be different every time.
Let me ask you
SuperCollider
this.
has real time mode and non real time mode.
Let me ask you
thing was
this:
done with
have
non-real
you
time.
solved jazz if it's
No.
static?
The answer is no. It was not solved. That was the joke.
That's the sneak peek. Is just
So here,
solved.
let me give you the 30-second promo for next week. So I had this idea of using because I got extra time on my hands. So I was like, it's been years and years since I've been at Super Collider. Started digging into it, and then I had this sort of epiphany that with Claude and agentic coding, I could sort of vibe code up some insane algorithms and then edit it. So it's like AI slop in a weird fucked up way. So, and it's a tighter iteration loop, just like you might use agentic code for writing a feature. I'm looking at it and editing it, and we can collaborate on it. It's very different than going to, Suno and just being like, make me a guy with guitar song. It's it's generating the code that then I write, and then and it's a totally crazy paradigm, and it makes really crazy decisions that then you can kind of go in, and it becomes a collaborative process in the weirdest possible way that I've ever experienced. It's I feel like I made this that's why it's an alien jazz album with an alien. I actually think it was an alien intelligence that I'm collaborating with, and it's a weird creative process that I want to explore more, and I think that's what I wanted to talk about. So we'll do a deeper dive next week on it.
Do you know Richard Savory?
Mm-mm.
Richard Savory for a long time was a community manager for Gang, and he kind of left Game Audio to pursue AI and music, and he's been part of this project to build a robot that plays jazz. So
you told me about this. Yeah.
So
it's like that. It's totally like that, but not a physical manifestation. Yeah.
But when you were talking about AI slop and
is that AI slop? I don't know.
I don't know. But
It's weird.
I had this image of a jazz band that was just on the fly reading music output and then playing it and performing. So it's humans performing.
Yeah. That would be alien music, being generated. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff in that space that I think it feels
broken.
I would. Yeah, it's broken. It's not solved. Yeah. So I was gonna say though is that that space feels rich, a rich territory for exploration, and it doesn't feel as violating as going to Suno. You go and you try to make Suno music, and you're like, this is ripping off everybody in the universe. Somewhere in this, somebody's getting ripped off, but it's way more buried and obscure, because it's probability tables it's writing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is for people who don't know, I've been wanting to do a more structured AI talk because I think there's a lot of craziness around it right now, fervor, if you will, and we've talked about Markov chains in the previous, and it would be really great to sort of talk about what is an LLM and how do you go from a Markov chain and to that thing, and because in some ways it's just a really scaled up version of that concept, and so
crazier than a Markov chain.
No, I know that, but I know that.
In fact, I would say if you start with a markup, Shane, you would probably undervalue or underestimate what the hell these things are. I think they're way more multidimensional than markup chains. In fact,
this is why I want to.
That's the discussion that we need to have.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't had the time to put it together, and what I want it to be is more structured, so that we have clarity on what it is, and that's it.
Well, the
anyway,
podcast I was on yesterday, we talked for a very long time about AI. It was like AI was the topic.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of podcasts doing that, and also,
I know, it's
how dare you go to another podcast?
I know. It was a very different one. It had lighting and a whole crew. It was like,
whoa!
It was a thing. And it wasn't live.
lighting.
We're gonna edit it. It was a very different thing.
We do it live.
This feels way chiller, man. This is like this is like raw, unedited, unfiltered. We got dozens of viewers.
We got almost. We got 3/4 of a dozen. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah. That because there's AI is a big, strong. People have strong opinions about AI right now, and also AI is just sort of abused word in general.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, we get a little sneak peek. I posted the link in the chat description, so people who now refresh the chat will have a link to it, and obviously people who came later. So yeah, if we could do your thing next week, just put it on the books, and then we could talk about your stuff, David. You said yours could take as long or as little time as you wanted, right?
Yeah. So, actually, I can do it. I'll do this.
So I have to go. Actually, sadly, to go get my put my kid to bed. Is that okay? Or are you going to be offended, David?
No.
I'll be offended, but that won't be the first time.
Bedtime. I gotta go do bedtime.
All right. Good night, Moon.
Sorry.
See, it's fine. Right.
Okay. Yep. See ya.
Wait. Let me, if I do this, see if I can. Actually, I'll probably have to share the window because otherwise the sound won't work in the same way. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes. You want me to put it up?
Yes.
Okay.
And can you hear this?
Nope.
Nope. Sweet. Well, classic. Is there a button for sharing sound?
So
Well, Oh, there we go. I got it. It's going to be the system audio thing, but that's okay because I'm on headphones.
Well, just make sure that the EV-Mux... So I hear myself right now.
Uh-huh.
So you need to make sure EV-Mux is outputting directly to your headphones.
Gotcha. All right. I'll stall for me.
Okay.
We have the same problem, huh?
So Dan, who taught you how to grow a beard that well? And can you teach us?
Is this well?
Weller than me.
This is just giving up. This is the equivalent to sweatpants for the face. I just stopped shaving. That's the trick with growing a long beard is to not cut it. Stop trimming it. Sorry. Yeah. Are you still figuring out your thing, David? Oh, you can't hear us. That's good. All right. Yeah. So, whoa. What'd you think of my chooser table? The chooser table demo.
It's pretty hot, dude. I was into it.
You know what? I didn't. I was gonna show, but I kind of just zipped through it. But I did end up using because I kind of just grabbed these footsteps real quick from the Boom library, and so I did have to do some trimming, and I'll do like get the transients kind of cleaned up a little bit, and I did that in the editor, and I was gonna show me doing that.
Dude, that was one of the best maybe not the best, but it was like such an amazing feature when that came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't read the notes. I didn't know that was even a thing. I think I like right clicked one day and I'm like, what? I can do this now? So cool.
You know, it's a really funny story how that came to be, because when Epic acquired Psionics, Psionics Rocket League was a UE3 game. It was really old, and they were using Wise, and we lost David. And the audio director at the time, Mike Alt, was really keen on having a waveform editor. It was like really important to him. It was like a deal breaker for him to switch over, moving from Wise into working on Unreal experiences. And they had just hired a audio programmer for the Psionics team. And so Aaron was like, "Hey, you've got an audio programmer. you can have the audio programmer make a thing for you." And so Igor, who's still there, was awesome. Is the one who worked on that, and there's some really cool features. Like for example, I'm hearing myself. So yeah, I don't know, David. Do you want to try to figure it out, or do you want us to just be quiet while you do your presentation? I can't hear you. We got David backstage. This software is cool, but the feedback thing when people try to share their audio is like the most annoying part of it.
Yeah, I'll need to hop into a call with you too, and with you and Aaron, see if we can get mine figured out. I think I know what to do.
See, you've got the same device that I've got, and so I probably could just send you my total mix setup, and I think you get that. You know what I mean? Like, because it's got the save mix or whatever. There's probably some way I could just send it to you. Aaron's got a total mix, but I don't remember which one. He's got one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I used to have like the FX something too. I actually bought it from Drew. That was my first RME, and then it got fried in an electrical storm here in Savannah, and so I melted it off to get fixed. So it was like $400 for the dude to fix it. But in the meantime, I was like, well, I need something. So I just bought the, whatever it is I said I have, this UCX2. It's been great. I got the ears on the side because my desk, you can't see it. And I will not show because that is the one thing. I cleaned what the camera can see.
It's like out of frame. It's just like a hoarder's tower of...
It's not great. I mean, I basically live in this room all day, but I've got like 3 racks built into my desk. First thing I did when we bought this house was we had never had a house before. I was like, I'm buying a production desk. Yeah. So I've got like a Avid Artist Mix that I've got hooked up to work with Reaper.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. But you were talking about the footsteps. I'd love to show something next go around with this footstep thing I've been working on. There was a game a little while back where we couldn't use anim tagging for some reason. I can't remember why they told us not to do it. So I had to get creative. So I ended up building a component where I was tracking the pawn speed, the foot location, and the rotational velocity of some of the bones, and that's how I was doing it. But I was doing it on a timer, which was just like hitting a lot. So then I had to make a bunch of conditions where, like, if they're not moving, don't do it. If their foot starts to rise, slow the timer down, and if it starts to go back towards the ground, speed the timer up. And I was able to do sounds that way, and then use all the other data to filter it. I want to throw that together in like a tech demo to like show what I had done on that project, because I don't have access to it, but I could throw it back together. It was kind of a neat workaround.
Yeah, that's a strange constraint. It's an interesting one though. Mm-hmm. David, how you feeling? You good? Oh, we can't hear you. Nope. Nope. Yeah, I don't know.
Just pull out a whiteboard and write what you're trying to say and hold it up to the camera. Or if you know sign.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You had your input working before. Yeah.
I don't really know.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And can you hear this? Because I can't. I'm wondering if you guys can.
Are you?
I don't hear anything.
I don't hear anything now.
So good.
This is a shared experience.
So
if you can't and we can't, then everyone can.
We're gonna get off this call and Dave is gonna be like completely fucked, can't hear anything. Spends the next hour fixing his computer.
So annoying, man. I think
what kind of audio device do you have?
I have Focusrite and it sucks.
So which one do you have?
The thing is,
an older
I have
one or
input. It's like a newish, I don't know, a couple of years old. So I'm outputting you guys to playback 7 and 8, which is fine. I'm outputting the sound for my desktop thing to 1 and 2 or something. Actually, maybe I didn't check this thing. I don't know. But now I don't hear it.
I can hear it. I can hear it.
So you guys can hear it, but I can't, which is perfect. That's good enough.
It's a trust exercise.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add it. Is that good?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right.
So this is an application I've been working on for a little bit, probably a couple months now. The idea for this was spawned out of when I was working in film. What happened a lot of the time was you had a cool sound effect for like a whoosh, or you had something that was playing, but it didn't like last long enough. You know, it needed to like go over a transition, or there was like a couple of seconds of reverb that you needed or something. And so you apply impulse responses or you apply reverb or something, and then you kind of cut and crossfade and try and tail and try and get it to sound good. And it never really sounded perfect. Now this doesn't sound perfect because I've got the values down quite a bit, so it's not super slow. But this is an offline process that does this thing called differential modal decomposition, which is a basically it's like physics machine learning for modal interactions in a room. So the concept of this is sort of what reverb is supposed to be, but isn't. The idea being that with different types of reverb, you have like impulse responses, which is convolving a sample, like multiplying it against the way that an audio sample works, but it's not really taking into account how the sound itself works in a space. So the idea for this was that you found something where, let's say I wanted this to have a longer tail. So what I do is like I find a section, and it goes through and, plays the sound. So I kind of hear this whoosh sound, which I don't hear, but you guys hear. Now the idea here with this is that at some point in this, the tail starts. And when the tail starts, what we do is we start turning on the modal decomposition tooling, which says that basically we do a bunch of analysis on how the volumes of specific modes is decreasing over time. And we can sort of stretch those modes and make those longer. So if I move the tail to like the start point of where the tail actually starts, you can see it does a whole bunch of analysis, and it gives me some graphs because I ended up writing most of a paper on how I was doing here, because trying to keep all this in your head at once is pretty complicated.
Sure.
But the idea here is that there are a couple of sort of metrics that I looked for designing a tail, and I guess I should show you just what it sort of sounds like. So I would say this is the synthesized, or this is the original tail. It'll sound very different because, again, the quality's crunched down, but if I turn them up, it sounds better. So there's your original, and then this is a synthesized tail.
Okay.
Okay, and if I wanted that tail to go for like 8 seconds. Right, and so the cool thing here is that you have the ability to sort of stretch and manipulate the lengths of the tail to give you more and more value out of the same sound. Because it's built on modal decomposition and not reverb, like algorithmic reverb of just multiplying something and making it longer. You get kind of how this sound would degrade if it had a longer tail. Is the idea. Does it sort of make sense so far?
Conceptually, yes. Yeah.
So are you basically chopping up like chunks of samples and then interpolating in between what the like frequency like differences are?
So we're resynthesized. It's sort of similar to granular. You can kind of see in this one, you can see some slices. So there's a granular element to it, but it's built on, lots of decomposition first, and then resynthesis via granular, just so it sounds really smooth. You can see, like, I'll turn these all the way down, and we'll get like a really bad resolution one. Mm-hmm. Or if I don't keep many of the modes. I'm sort of trusting that it sounds different. But the idea being that if I wanted to push this up and capture all the modes and capture a huge frequency resolution and keep a bunch of shit, it'll go for a really, really long time to try and find the modes, because this is going through and doing linear algebra on like every frame and trying to work out what the gradient descent of every part of the FFT is. So it's splitting this up into 50 different FFTs, and then doing the matrix algebra on every one of them, every frame, to try and stretch it out over the same length. So you can see here, like when I turn it up, I mean, this isn't even that high, but this will take ages. And then you get a really different result, well, maybe a different result. It's hard to say because I don't hear it. But the cool part of this is that you don't actually have to use specifically things with really big tails. Like there was one I had for, let me just pull up some birds or something. Go in here, because this is one of the greatest libraries that exists. So where I think it gets really fun is you can do this to really, really short sounds, and you can just it's like a sound design tool basically, but I just go for this and I say, hey, the tail starts here, and give me a bit of crossfade. Maybe I don't need the biggest. I'll just try and make this a bit quicker again. 48
if you want to set up like a long one, we can chat while it's going.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I'll set one up, but I'll show you how. Where I get really excited with this approach is not the actual smooth ones, but you get stuff like.
Oh, that's interesting. Can we hear the original?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can get these like it's a sound design sort of playground where I can just be like, give me all these different versions of all these different lengths of objects, and right. I think for like library tooling or it's awesome, but if you just the idea here is I just want to be able to manipulate the size or length of a sound and break the physics portion of it, which I think is really interesting as a way to craft sounds. I haven't really seen it used because this is kind of like what reverb does, but based on our rules of physics. And so this is just giving reverb a different way to work, I suppose. And then I've got some other little bits and pieces. But I find like even if you get something really short, like I just go like this and get something really tiny, you can get some pretty cool sort of sounds out of it. So the original was...
Okay.
And...
Yeah. So it sounds like it's something that to explore and try to like. Is that the sort of thing that you're looking for? Is like interesting outcomes or like what's the is there a problem that you're trying to solve? Like what's the motivation here?
Yeah. So the motivation is that when you have a sound that like I want to avoid using impulse responses and algorithmic reverb to get something that stretches over a certain amount of time. Now, the values that I have here won't sound perfect because they're very low. But when I crank them up, you end up getting something that's pretty realistic for things like bells or something. If I just want a bell tone to go for like 35 seconds, but I only have it going for 5 seconds, you end up getting some super duper useful sort of textures out of it. Let's see what this one sounds like. So same sound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get more high frequency detail in that situation.
Yeah, so if you crank it all the way up, you end up getting like a lot, but it just takes longer and longer.
Do you have any any examples that have like undergone long process times that you can sort of show off? Something that's been baked out or something like that.
Probably not on hand. I'll have to find some and put them in. It's a good idea to have because they do change pretty drastically as you do them. So I'll have to find those. See how long that one takes. I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a little different. I mean, I know where it started, so it makes sense that that's the sort of output.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that GRM Tools was doing, just like a lot heavier, not real time. Like this is pretty cool. Is this like your own project thing, or is this?
This is just me having a play. I've been following. There's a YouTube series by a guy called Steve Brunton, which if anyone's into like physics modeled machine learning. I know machine learning is a very weird. It's in a weird space of like, oh, does that mean it just captures all my? No, it doesn't. This isn't
your thoughts.
Yeah, the big thing here. This isn't generative AI. This is just statistics of physics stuff and using that. But these Steve Brunton videos, which are very heady, calculus-driven physics things, have all these really interesting applications, like how they model Laplacian wave rivulets and cool sort of fluid dynamic things. And I wanted to play with that as a concept in audio, because I know that we're so driven by, it's got to be real time, it's got to be like an effect, but there's just effects that exist that can never be real time. Like this is, some of the physics stuff, when you really turn it up, is like a day to get a sample back. And that's great, because the point of this is to probably spin this up to run to just get me lots of variations of sounds, because you can get different portions or different little clips, and you end up getting very realistic little sounds like, well, if this was by itself in a room playing a little bit of a sound, what would how would the envelope degrade? So I've just been playing. It's sound effects guys. So it's not publicly available yet. I should put it up somewhere, and it's not the engine sounds based on physics. That would be Ange the Great. Again, someone that like I've been watching for a long time and been playing with these concepts. But I think there's a lot of meat on the bones here, just in terms of working out how to build this into something useful. Because at the moment, it's very down the GRM tools kind of route of like just playing with sounds. But I think the building this based on physics emulations instead of leaning on granular a lot is seeming to give me some really, really interesting responses that granular sort of didn't give me, because just based on periodicity of samples. And I mean, the first time I was using granular, I was doing a lot of like engine stuff, and it sounds good but bad at the same sort of time. And I felt like granular works when you have really stable sounds that go for a long time. And the point of this one was like, well, if I just had a tiny little door knock, but I wanted the door knock to be in a bigger room without the room having too much character, I think there's some sort of play with this approach.
Well, I think there's so many plugins and VSTs and tools out there that are even in a DAW geared towards like runtime, like you play it and it filters. And I think having something like this where you can really just like stretch the confines of a sound and really shape it into something that it's not is awesome. I mean, I would love to play with this if you're comfortable with sharing it, because I would love this to be in my design workflow. Because there's sometimes where I'm like, I find something that's got a good texture, and I like the way it is, but I'm like, I don't know, I feel like I need to like make it bigger, make it longer, do whatever. And like, this is such a cool tool. Like,
dude, I knew you would get it. I knew you would get it.
I'm being serious. I would literally use that. Like, that is awesome.
That's awesome. Well, I'll clean it up a little bit, and then I'll probably throw it up on the website, and I'll shoot you a copy and stuff. I'd love to get some feedback on it, because it's been in this space. I've been working on this probably like 6 months, and it's been in a weird space with just graphs and tonnets, scalings, and trying to learn how, because there's so many metrics for audio, and I feel like we have this weird propensity of looking at like, it's volume and FFT and I don't know. I guess that's kind of what we look. Yeah, it's like, whereas when you actually look at statistics of what else is in audio, I've been learning about all these amazing other things. Like a couple of months ago, I started, or maybe a year ago now, I say a couple of months ago, like a year ago, I started looking at the spectral centroid, which is, a measure of brightness. And I thought like, that's so interesting. I've never really thought about how bright a sound is. From thinking about synthesis, like, does that mean it has lots of odd harmonics? Like, no, that's not how bright a sound is. That's how harsh a sound is. And you're like, so that means there's some other metric which becomes, how harmonic it is a sound, how bass is tonal or noise variance. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, does that mean that there's also something about periodicity? And then that becomes a thing called percussive and harmonic source separation, which is splitting something into transients and body sounds. But then you think, well, is that transient design? So then you start looking at transient design, and it's like, actually, there's so many things in audio that are really interesting, useful metrics. Like does that mean that there's the spectral flatness of it works out to be another metric on a different way to measure tonality or noisiness. And I think one of the things that this has really taught me is looking at the same piece of audio with 10 or 20 different metrics and being like, okay, only really when you consider all of these together do you start getting a picture of or another picture of how the sound is. But then if you plot these out and you say, well, how similar is this sound to that sound, you end up getting a very different result based on which metrics you're looking at. Because if you have something that's very, very transient but very noisy, it's going to appear completely different to something that's a smooth musical note, because it's just has so many different components that are don't really play with each other at all. So it's been very interesting, and I'm happy that I've I feel like I'm finally getting into a place that it's actually making some cool sounds that I would use. So I'm really glad to hear that it does, even though I can't hear them. I definitely will put some together. I found that like using it on sounds that aren't supposed to be tails is a totally different thing to using it on something that is supposed to be a tail. So like it's great for musical notes. Like if I want a piano note that went for like 3 minutes, like that, you can do that. Whereas you could say like, oh yeah, you put it through reverbs, or you could do a freeze, for example. But freezing isn't the same as modal decomposition. Modal decomposition is saying, hey, the end point of this is 3 minutes away. Work out how to get to that endpoint linearly or whatever. However, it's not really linear, but however it works over time. So there's definitely like a lot of numbers and a lot of graphs that I need to like work out how to express, and lots of explainer things. But I'm glad that comes across.
Well, I think there's maybe also exploration in if this is something you have ambitions to release, what is the like user experience, and how like true to the physics is are your parameter set, or is it just like here's the weird knob,
Yeah, man, the amount of work it's taken just to put this into this form where it isn't like 95 text boxes of different things, like just to be able, because I was using this, I'm like, oh, it's super cool, but I need to work out how to like highlight a certain bit, and then but then I need to pick which bit where the tail is, and then like what type of crossfading it is, and I guess I need a sample viewer because I don't want people to have to drop it in every time, and I'm like, oh, I need a history window because like what if you liked the previous sound, you got to like go back to like, oh my god. That's
Can I throw a request out whenever you're, working on your UI and your descriptions and tooltips? Please give it like actual names. So if I want to Google and learn more, I can. I can't stand tools that's like the stank knob, like what Dan said. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I know enough about audio to I know what this is doing, but it's just like I will not purchase a tool that is like weird. Like it's almost like I don't know, like SoundCloud wrapper kind of tools where it's like they don't tell you what it's actually doing. Like, anyway, that was a very side tangent. When you said the weird knob, it just like made me shiver down my spine. I'm like, oh.
I'm trying to find a photo of, I'll see if I got a screenshot of the earlier, like one of the earlier iterations where I had to send it to some friends, and I was like, what do you think this does? Because it's just so like it doesn't mean anything. Oh, here this is see if I can share this one. It's really weird. You can kind of see it's basically still the same. It's like an earlier version of it where I was like, what do you think this does? And people were like, no idea. But because when you're trying to go through eigenvalues, right, which is that little circle with dots in the left, and the problem is I'm trying to express what good eigenvalues are for a set type of sound, and it doesn't, like when you express eigenvalues, which is this wacky metric for looking at sound, you sort of clump them in different portions, and I need to like show people that like, hey, these clumped in this portion, no good sound, bad sound here, and that's it's really tricky to do something complicated like this without stripping away all of that and putting a stank knob and being like, here's the stank knob, it does 45 parameters in the background,
right,
and you won't be able to work it out. But then I'm trying to move away from this initial version, which was like you needed to be a mathematician to like work out what to do and try and be a bit more UX friendly. Like the big thing I'm going back and forth on at the moment is the residual decay. So you can kind of change how the tail degrades, and you have some knobs and some controls for changing how, like, oh, I want it to be really noisy up front, but then to degrade into tonality, or I want it to be really tonal up front, but then degrade into noise, or I want like only the top residual parts to degrade really fast or last for ages, and really break different parts of it, which is, I think, what makes it such an engaging tool to have a play with, which is why I have the values so low, because then you get sort of sounds out faster. But they, as you sort of see, they sound so much better, and you get so much more high frequency when you make them longer. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword to try and do a lot of this stuff in the background and everything. But yeah, thanks for letting me share. I think it's
yeah. Thanks for sharing it. It was cool to see what you're working on. Oops, there we go.
Dave is going to send me a build, and it's like everything's going to be named Stank Knob.
Everything's going to be Stank Knob. I'm going to be, you just got to turn on the Stank 2. That's simple.
Stank 2.
Every parameter is some form of stank.
Yeah. When
I had one more approach initially. Maybe while you guys are on the call. So the initial thing was that you would actually capture the modal decomposition of a certain envelope and then use that one as the decomposition envelope of another sound, like sort of cool. Like a convolution approach. But I wasn't sure if I should go forward with it, because I just didn't know if like asking people to make a preset generator of their sounds and then sort of track them and use them. I wasn't sure if that would be a thing that people would want, other than maybe that's the thing people think they're doing initially, and then they have this other stuff. I don't know.
I mean, it could just be a different mode, right? Like it's another way to utilize this system to get different output. Some of it maybe like the stank thing is prescriptive, right? It's like this, someone is like, okay, first of all, who's my audience? They're not technical, right? They're going to be the people who are like, how do I get more stank, right? Who are asking themselves, like, how do I increase the stank in my tracks? And then lo and behold, they have the one plugin that's going to give them more stank, right? So like, that's first of all is like, who is the audience? You said they're not mathematicians, right? So, and then it's going to be communicating like what is going to, how do you communicate? You are setting parameters that are closer to what I think you want, right?
Yeah.
That's been a hard
like your eigencircle is like, how do you communicate? Oh, this is the better output, or this is going to give you a better result.
That's been like a hard part of this impulse response tool we're working on, is we have had to come up with so many weird ways of generating this that are the parameters that we tweak, which people never see, are like the most over the deep end shit that I'm like, we're now at the point of like, we're generating IRs, it's sounding good, but it's like, how do we keep going through iterations of the UI of like, how do we kind of like make this consumable without having to read like a 20-page paper? This is insane to look at. Because like one of the things we're doing is a wave simulation in Unreal using a finite distance time domain. And there's a lot of parameters you can tweak with that, and a lot of those will absolutely crash your GPU, which we've had to put a lot of guardrails on that, and introduce like chunking out the wave sim, and we have like at least 4 pages of a UI that you could flip through of parameters that you can tweak currently, that we're now at the point of like, how do we like scale this back and make it more reactive to whatever they're trying to do? That's becoming like the harder challenge as of now. It's like, how do we make this consumable?
Yeah, it's really
what you're doing or anything is like, you go through so much research and then you end up like knowing so much about this information, but then once it comes time to like give it to other people, it's like figuring out a way that it's like a designer could use this. They don't have to be over the end technical.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, it's that really tricky bit too, because you could say like, "Oh, we'll make it really simple," but then put an advanced tab, and you're like, "Yeah, but everything is a UX flow that is like creating a choice of how people use it." So, the reason I sort of shifted to waveform selection being kind of at the heart of the whole thing is like, well, I want you to pick source. If you can kind of get the settings however you want, and then the source, you should be able to just kind of highlight different parts of source and changing them all the time. And that felt very like designer workflow. But one of the other things is like, do you have lots of XY pads or hexagons or something that you're sort of dragging a ball around and getting preset tail lengths, which maybe I could just sit there and do a lot of the preset tail length numbers and pick 6 or 7 different cool settings and then just put them on a hexagon that allows people to blend between them. But then it becomes that stank meter again of like, is this just doing black magic in the background? It's maybe nowadays in like consumer tech, that's kind of just what people want is the XY pad with the stank meter. But this one's
more Scringle.
I mean, it's how are you describing the information that's relevant to the person who's doing the design work, right? Like, I was recently updating my fab filter collection because I'm starting to look at doing more freelancing because it's the job situation right now, and I got Pro R, their reverb plugin, and it's just I would never have thought to present a reverb in that fashion, and I think it's really clever. I have definitely had like lots of reverbs where I'm like tweaking filters and filters on the feedback and all that sort of stuff to sort of design the brightness and the frequency on the tail, and that is just sort of like it's just a very clever way to present. It's the sound. I'm looking at the audio, the spectrogram, but I'm seeing the decay. I'm seeing it sort of presented to me, and I'm shaping the reverb in that fashion, like with those in that space. And so I don't know. It's just I think like. And maybe it's just a fab filter thing. They've got a lot of plugins that do a really good job of describing, like showing the audio.
Definitely.
And what the effect is doing. And you don't have to know a lot about, like, you actually could sometimes, like I used to use Pro C to teach compression to my students long time ago because it was just such a great visualization of compression. And I think that's like it's a challenging problem to when you're creating a product to shape that user experience for the intended user and understanding them and what they want, what they're bringing to the table in terms of expectation and comprehension and all this sort of stuff. It's challenging.
I mean, it was so funny the other day. I got my wife does some like preset design for some of my plugins and stuff because she's got a music degree as well and great composer and worked in game audio and has a great ear for a bunch of things, but does more of the creative audio stuff. Like I'm generally doing more technical stuff nowadays. And one of the funny things is I've built this big suite of plugins that helps me design stuff for my software. So I have like a software package that builds software for me so that I can keep designing things. So if I want a UI for one of my plugins, I have a plugin UI designer that I can just use. And I was walking her through it the other day. I thought, I'd be able to make more plugins if I could get you to do more of the design for the plugins. And it was so funny because as I was opening up, I said, look, then the plugin design is pretty straightforward. And she goes, I'm going to stop you there. Don't tell me it's straightforward. Because she's like, you're saying it's straightforward. And then I'm going to open it. It's not going to be straightforward. And I'm going to feel like an idiot. And I was just like, Yeah, you're right. She goes, you live in these plugins, like you see them all the time. You're so aware of them. Yes, they're really straightforward. And I was opening, I'm like, look, it only changes the color and you type in the name here. And she's like, yeah, but I've never seen this before. Like I'll pick it up, obviously, but I've never seen this before. And yeah, it just reminded me of teaching again and being like, yeah, the things we understand as being really simple, like, yeah, it's easy. You just drag the waveform and then set this and then set the tail length, which is over here for some reason. And there you go. There's the perfect sound. And it's like, yeah, no shit, that doesn't work. Like, of course, that's not obvious to everyone. So at the moment, like it's it's trending towards a more obvious place, but still evolving.
It reminds me of a moment that I had with my mom. It was a long time ago. I was playing Civilization, and she was taking political science classes, and she was kind of interested in she's like, what is going on here? And so I tried to teach her how to play, and it was Civ 2. And this tells you how long ago it was. And I was like, right click here and right click here. And she got frustrated with me because she didn't understand the term right click. And it was just such a basic assumption that I had made coming into the like teaching interaction, and so I think of that sometimes as, it's like the assumptions that you make coming into this moment, and what do they have to bring in with them in order to understand what you expect them to do?
Sometimes they don't even tell you. Like sometimes I remember teaching, and you get through like 40 minutes of the class, and then you get a person who asks the thing that happened on slide 1, and you're like, holy shit, you haven't got the whole I lost you right at the start, didn't catch that I lost you, because in my head it's all together and it works, and I've got a kid that's like really switched on in the front going like, yeah, I get it. And so I'm like, cool, he gets it. Keep going, and then like way down the thing, I got poor old mate who's like, yeah, so sound up louder, and I'm like, oh no, oh no, but it's like a totally fair assumption. It's not his or their fault for any of this, but it's just a thing where I looked at it and went, that's when you cognizant of different people using it and the where they come from. I mean, you see this all the time in game audio as well. People that come from Wwise have a very like, I want hierarchy. It's like, whereas people that come from FMod don't want hierarchy. People that come from UE want modulation, or they don't want modulation, or they want complexity, or they want blueprints, or they want, like, everybody wants different things. And then you sit down and you explain something, which is, I think when you were talking about FabFilter before, that the biggest thing that FabFilters really has revitalized the whole plugin industry, because they've been able to present information in both a very technical and a very simple way at the same time. It's like, if you want to drag the handles because you want a wider queue, there you go. If you want to listen to a part of the sound, cool. But if you just want to grab the thing and pull up, that also works too. I think it's really gorgeous plugin design to be able to go between those two completely different types of users.
Yeah, I remember being in school and walking past someone who had Pro Q open, and I was just kind of looking. I was like, "Oh, that's cool looking EQ." And then I saw where they had like drag the thing down, and I was paying attention. I was like, is that applying compression to that band? Like, are you compressing just that? And then I just sat down beside him. I'm sitting there talking to him. I was like, but the fact I was just able to walk by, see what they're doing, I was like, whoa. And that was like my introduction to FabFilter. I went home and bought whatever version of ProQ that was immediately, and then just fell in love with their plugins. They're all so intuitive.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I think this is, to sort of wrap it up, because we are kind of at that time. But like, I feel like as tech designers, is a huge thing that we need to engage with. A lot of times we're building tools for other folks, for other parts, other parts of the team or whatever. And I think there's a lot of merit in taking some time. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard, to take time for that, but I think there's a lot of value in taking time to sort of engage, at least at the very minimum, engage with the user experience. And Unreal is one of those things that it has all this reflection built in, so it's very easy to sort of like, oh, I'll deal with that later, because it sort of automatically does the basic thing for people. Whereas maybe other engines, you have to sort of, oh, I got to build a little UI, you know. So, but there's still value, I think, in engaging.
My number one rule for any text system is it's got to have a debugger. It's got to have something visual that they can show. I will not build something that does not have a debugger. It might just be boxes. It might be some text. But it has to have something, because if they don't get it, and they won't, and that's totally fine, because they didn't build it from scratch, then they should be able to click the debug mode and it should start giving them some information. They're like, oh, when I go closer, this little line appears and it points to me, but then the line changes to red, so that must be bad. Or like the little efforts that gives. Like when I caught up with Respawn folk at Game SoundCon, it's amazing, because I met one of the music designers, and I hadn't talked to them in probably 2 years, and he came up and was like, we still use that music debugger. That has saved our ass. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot I made that. That's so cool. Because it's just one of those things where we never have the time to build our own debuggers, right? We're always like building the gameplay code, and I feel like if the first thing I can do is just spend a couple of weeks actually just making debuggers for people for all the tools that they have, I end up learning the tools they have. I end up onboarding and understanding things, and also like working out how they work, what their level of code or blueprint is. So like, where do I slot in? Who are the sort of the power brokers that know how to build all the things? Are there cool slate windows or something? Because all those things are what I reach to when I'm like pretty tired at 2 a.m. trying to find out where the sound is or something, and I like can't find it, and I've got to breakpoint, which is fine. Breakpointing is a good step as well. But if it could tell me the information, like why did it fail? What happened? What's it loading? What's it doing at the moment? Is it doing anything? Is it doing nothing? Is it waiting for me to do something? Like all those things are super important. And that's why I haven't built a debugger for this. So I realize now I probably should. Well, I kind of have. There's some diagnostics at least.
Well, it's just it's however it's information, right? And whether that information is always on the tail end or if it's like immediate, it's important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was cool, and I guess we have Aaron's thing to look forward to next week.
That's great.
Next week. Hold on a second. Yeah, next should be good. Next week.
That sounds cool.
Next time. And yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks, Alex, for joining us.
Of course.
It's so good to see you, dude.
Thanks for sharing your cool tool, David. And kind of, it's fun to see you exploring some things a little bit different, right?
Yeah. I think it's not always all Unreal. People, if you've got cool tech audio stuff that's in different things, always feel free to share and build stuff and plugins and all the rest of it. It's all sort of part of the process.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great weekend. And that's it. No more. Next week you're on your own. See y'all.